And this week, a former KGB agent, Elner Musayev, said that in 87, he worked in the 6th Department of the KGB of the USSR in Moscow. The most important area of work of the 6th Department was the acquisition of spies and sources of information from among businessmen and capitalist countries. It was in that year that our department recruited a 40-year-old businessman from the USA, Donald Trump, nicknamed Kashnov. Now, of course, this could be a lie, but I mean, look at all he's doing. Look at all the people he's letting into the government. I mean, everything that they have, or that the US government had, to counter foreign infiltration, like the GEC, all have been abolished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the red flags are there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here was Yuri Shvets who actually said the same thing. So this guy actually graduated from the KGB-controlled Patrice Lumumba People's Friendship University in Moscow, where, for example, Mahmoud Abbas and Ali Khomeini graduated as well, according to Russia Today, that is. And this guy said the same thing. He was a key source for the 2021 book American Compromat by Craig Unger, which details claims that Donald Trump is a Soviet and later Russian asset. And here's someone who is summarizing an article about this. The source of the publication is former KGB agent Yuri Shvets. In 1977, Trump married Czech model Ivana Zelnikova and became the target of Soviet and Czechoslovak intelligence services. In 1980, Trump opened his first hotel, the Grand Hyatt New York, and met Soviet émigré Semyon Kislin, who was allegedly an undercover agent. In 1987, Trump and his wife visited Moscow and Leningrad, where KGB agents convinced him to go into politics. The KGB collected a lot of information about Trump's personality, well, that's not hard to do, and found that he was extremely vulnerable intellectually and psychologically and prone to flattery. You don't say. After that, Trump looked for opportunities to put himself forward for the Republican presidential nomination. Trump was an ideal target in many ways. His vanity and narcissism made him an excellent choice for recruitment. You know, all these things sound very plausible to me. Mm-hmm. The same year, he began publishing political manifestos in the American press in the form of advertisements calling for stopping defense payments to countries that could defend themselves. Does it remind you of anything? Yes, it certainly does. I mean, this is the kind of rhetoric that you hear from a lot of these, tenant media people and stuff all the time. Interestingly, another former KGB agent had previously written about Trump's recruitment by the KGB in 1987. Yep, and that was this guy, Oleg Kalugin. He said also the same thing. Or at least, he said he could be a KGB FSB asset since his 1987 visit to Moscow. The operation to lure Trump had begun with an overture in March 1986 by Soviet ambassador to the UN, Yuri Debinin. In The Art of the Deal, Trump brags about how they talked about his proposal to build a hotel in Moscow across from the Kremlin, in partnership with the Soviet government. Vitaly Churkin was instrumental in setting up the deal with intourist Viktor Suvorov. Now, if anyone likes to read more about this topic, read his books. Very good stuff. Alleges that the Soviet authorities often used in-tourist prostitutes as bait to develop compromat, particularly of a sexual nature. Well, I mean, if Trump has any weakness, it would be women, wouldn't it?
Yep.
The New York Times reported that while Trump was in Moscow in July 1987, he met Mikhail Gorbachev. Kalugin says, I would not be surprised if the Russians have, and Trump knows about them, files on him during his trip to Russia and his involvement with meeting young ladies that were controlled by Soviet intelligence. Well, I mean, he's also good friends with Epstein, wasn't he? And here's another connection, which is Felix Sater. We've talked about this guy multiple times before. Our boy can be president of the United States and we can engineer it. I'll get Putin's entire team to buy it. I'll lead the whole process, which is an excerpt from an email from Felix Sater to Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's lawyer, in 2015.
Wow.
And he was the head of the Bayrock Group, who actually helped him, build the Soho Hotel with ties to the Russian mafia. Oh yeah, I mean, he has ties with Mogilevich even, who is the biggest crime boss. And here again, right, Trump-Russia was a hoax, they say. I mean, we did a whole, if you look on my X profile, you can find like a 20-minute clip of us going through all of that, because there is so much Like, to just say, oh, it's a hoax, that is just way too easily.
Dismissive.
It's such a cope. Yeah, I mean, why don't you actually look into this? Because there is a lot there. Just search Trump, Russia, Symes, then go look at the Center for National Interest and who was on their board during 2016 and see what you think is going on. So he's talking about Dimitri Symes here. Former 2016 Trump campaign advisor is charged over his work for sanctioned Russian TV. Well, this is Dimitri Symes. Dimitri Symes is actually on this geopolitics show, New Rules Geopolitics with Alexander Dugin, all the time. Both of them are recurring guests. And of course, when it comes to the Mueller report, he says the same thing as I always say as well. Mueller and the Congress found nothing on Trump-Russia collusion. So he says, did you even look at the Mueller report? No one has. Let alone the SSCI Volume 5 Trump-Russia Counterintelligence Report. All they said in the Mueller report was that they couldn't prove conspiracy beyond a criminal reasonable doubt. Yep. Only in terms of intent by a then-sitting US president to have colluded directly with the Russian government and representatives to illegally attack the 2016 election. They additionally documented 10 instances of direct obstruction of that same investigation by Trump, etc., that could be prosecuted if he weren't a sitting POTUS. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, people always say, oh, there was no collusion. And then they say, like, oh yeah, the Mueller report admits this. Yeah, they say that there wasn't sufficient evidence to actually go to trial to prosecute them for conspiracy or for collusion. But that doesn't mean that there was no interference. There absolutely was. And Mueller himself has said this as well. And of course, there's Rudy Giuliani here. His trips were paid for by Dimitro Firtash. Firtash is also a friend of Lev Parnas, who is friends with Pam Bondi. And Dimitro Firtash was also a guy who worked directly with Putin, he said, and also with Mogilevich once again. Now, there was also this. President Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, was accused in a 20-page letter to the FEC of working with Russian intelligence services in 2018. Now, again, here it goes back to a lot of people's names who are mentioned in the Mueller report, and Jared Kushner is absolutely one of them. It's very well documented that he's good friends with Roman Abramovich and Lev Leviev, who are also the biggest donors of Chabad Lubavitch worldwide, right? They are Russian-Israeli oligarchs. Roger Stone, of course. I mean, Michael Flynn, who was at a dining table with Putin, and Jill Stein, that David Duke also promoted to become president because she was good for white people, even though she has this whole black liberation kind of thing going on, right? She wants like black reparations and defund the police. Yeah, very good for white people, David Duke. And here is Paul Manafort, Felix Sater again, right? And Wilbur Ross. Yep. And Wilbur Ross used to work for Rothschild when he bailed out Donald Trump for multiple billions. And of course, Rothschild is, there are all these fake headlines of Putin has banned Rothschild and his New World Order banking cartel family from entering Russian territory. This is completely fake. You can never find any actual sources of this. So I replied with, if Putin banned Rothschild, then why is Nathaniel Rothschild, 5th Baron Rothschild, the current Baron of the Rothschild family, quote-unquote, very good friends with Rabbi Lazar, the chief Chabad rabbi of Russia and Putin's rabbi, quote-unquote? Why is Rothschild an advisor to Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska? And why is Russian-Israeli oligarch Roman Abramovich, quote-unquote, said to be among his close contacts, who is one of Putin's, quote-unquote, closest confidants and Chabad's biggest patron worldwide? How does that work exactly? So here is Nathaniel Rothschild, head of the Rothschild family, next to the chief Chabad rabbi of Russia. And here he is with Oleg Deripaska, once again. And of course, here's Putin with Chabad. And Chabad always says, like, oh yeah, we have no ADL because we are the ADL. They have a lot of power for sure. But yeah, since we've been over this so many times, I mean, you can go look back. There's plenty on this. Here are some reactions from Ukrainians on the matter. He says, I was electrocuted, beaten, stabbed in the leg, and starved after being captured while defending my home and family in Mariupol. We held back the Putin invasion for several weeks while Russia slaughtered 25,000, predominantly Russian-speaking Ukrainians, including women and children. Trump is mad or owned. It's because Trump here said Russia fought for that land in Ukraine and lost a lot of soldiers doing it, so Russia should keep it. What a lame excuse. I mean, Ukrainians fought for that land and lost a lot of soldiers doing it, so maybe Ukraine should keep it, huh?
I'm sure they probably lost a lot of innocent civilians as well.
Absolutely.
Do you see any future in which Ukraine returns to its pre-2014 borders?
Well, I think Pete said today that that's unlikely, right? It certainly would seem to be unlikely. They took a lot of land and they fought for that land, and they lost a lot of soldiers. But it would just seem to me, and I'm not making an opinion on it, but I've read a lot on it, and a lot of people think that that's unlikely.
You've read a lot on it? Really? And here are also US military volunteers in Ukraine who say fuck Trump and his deal. Telegraph interviewed Americans fighting in Ukraine. They say Trump's peace terms isn't peace, it's a surrender, a gift to Putin. Exactly. Yep. That's exactly what it is. Veterans call president a coward who won't stand up to Putin. So here